Hey guys, Mrs. Nelson here. In this video, we're actually going to be talking about adding imagery into our writing. We've used imagery a little bit so far. We've been able to identify it in our book. We've been able to use it a little bit here and there, but now we really need to figure out how do I actually use imagery throughout my writing. And so in this video, I'm going to give you an example of how we can actually go in and use imagery. Now, you don't want to suffocate the reader with so much imagery, but you want to give the reader a picture. That is the purpose of imagery, is to describe something using the five senses, giving the reader a painted picture. So, before we decided the plot, this is about my personal experience snorkeling and jet skiing in Cancun. What we had to do before was get started on my plot, the basic elements. I needed to find a conflict, a man versus man, man versus self, man versus nature conflict. I needed to find one event that turned my attitude or the whole situation around for me, and I need to have some sort of resolution. And so what we did first was I figured out my conflict. My conflict with this snorkeling and jet skiing experience was I was struggling with nervousness and anxiety with going on jet skis in Cancun. I was nervous about it, and so I was struggling with whether I wanted to actually go on this excursion. So then I figured out that my turning point, what turned my attitude and this whole thing around for me, was when I actually got to drive the jet ski. That's really what turned it around for me. After that, I really had a great old time. And then my resolution was my final scene. You want to be sure your resolution has a final scene and that you tell the reader how you felt about the experience. And so my resolution, the final scene for us, was we were eating free chips and salsa at the local restaurant, and I felt happy, relieved, relaxed, and confident after the experience. All right, so knowing what my plot was, my conflict, turning point, and resolution, now I need to actually go in and create my basic personal narrative. What I went ahead and did was I did what you guys do. A lot of y'all just describe the event. So I wrote my event down, just me describing it rather than me telling a story. So what I'm going to go in and do is I'm actually going to give you some tips to help you actually create a story. So first off, you want to be sure, I'm going to really focus on these things right here, just some mechanics. You want to be sure that you center align your title. Over here you can see this is how you can, there's left align, center align, right align, and then this is just justify it. So you want to center align your title. After that, for every paragraph, and a lot of you guys are starting to indent a little bit more, but there's still some paragraphs that are really janky, and so you want to be sure for every single paragraph you indent. You just press the tab and it indents for you. So here's how I start my paragraph. It was the week after our wedding and we were finally relaxing on the beach in Riviera Maya. Ryan and I had wanted to go snorkeling since the moment we booked our vacation, and he never stopped talking about it. So at the very beginning of your story, you really want to describe and set the scene. So where was I at the very beginning? I was on the beach. I could start off with anything. I was sitting on the beach reading my novel while Ryan was in the ocean snorkeling. This is me setting the scene. So here I went in and I actually began adding some imagery and extra detail. I included my conflict, which I have highlighted. So down here you can see we finally paid for the excursion on our second day, and the next day we were going to head out. We were so excited. The next day we ate breakfast and headed to the entrance of the resort. I took these three sentences, and I put it into two new paragraphs. I added some detail, letting the reader understand what we were doing, how things happened, things like that. So at the very beginning, you see that I started it out. I was sitting on the beach reading my novel while Ryan was in the ocean snorkeling. In orange is my first imagery. I could feel the hot sun beating down on my skin. It was early morning and we had just eaten breakfast. Ryan was getting a good start on snorkeling in the ocean before our excursion began. The things that are highlighted in light pink is my extra detail. I gave some imagery, and then I go in and provide some detail about what's happening. I'm setting the scene for the reader. I had this line: Ryan had wanted to go snorkeling since the moment we booked our vacation, and he never stopped talking about it. Then after this line, I go in and I give some more detail, and then I add in my conflict. The thought of riding jet skis in the middle of the ocean terrified me. Will a professional be driving us? Will Ryan be driving? Oh geez, if Ryan is driving, I'm surely going to die, I thought to myself. So this is me introducing my conflict, my man versus self conflict, and I continue to talk about it, and then I kind of add some dialogue down here. So now I need to continue to actually add some more detail and imagery and continue to tell the story. So I decided to take out that highlighted blue because I had just went through, and here you can see is where I took those 2-3 sentences and I expanded it, giving detail, adding my conflict and adding some imagery in there to further describe what was going on. So now I'm to the part where the van is picking us up. So we headed to the resort, and I said the van picked us up after 15 minutes of waiting. Instead of just saying the van picked us up after 15 minutes of waiting, I'm going to describe the scene. So I'm going to move this up and talk about the actual scene. We entered through the exit, noticing many people waiting for multiple vans. There were many vans coming through from different excursion agencies. So here, instead of me just saying the van picked us up after 15 minutes of waiting, I'm talking and telling you what I'm seeing. I'm going to highlight that in orange to show you that this is me telling you what I see. So now that I've added this imagery in here, then I can go ahead and continue. And instead of just saying the van picked us up after 15 minutes of waiting, I went ahead and added waiting in the hot, smoldering weather. So I went in and I added actually a prepositional phrase describing, giving some more detail. And then I go in and talk about how long the drive was. And here, while I am in the car, I can describe what I'm seeing. The ride, I can start, instead of it took us, the ride to the excursion location, excursion location took us 15 minutes. Passing various resorts on the way, trees flew by along with birds in the sky. I could feel the cold air brush against my arm as we were heading there. So then I go in and I continue to add some more imagery. Here is how you guys add more imagery. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this because this is actually some more imagery. This is what you guys need to be doing. You need to be going in, and yeah, you can go ahead and start your basic personal narrative with just the description, but you need to be able to go in and set the scene. You want to tell the reader where you are, what are you doing, what are you seeing, what are you feeling, things like that. You want to be able to describe your conflict. Here's where I added my conflict. Okay, later on I would continue to write and to discuss and to tell my story until I get to my turning point. The first thing, like I said, you want to decide your actual plot. What's going to be your conflict? What will be your turning point? What will be your resolution? And then go ahead and go in and start writing it. And start with what were you doing? Give some detail. Give some imagery. Things like that.